Good day, students. This is a presentation for social science, ACP, SSC12, exam-based conduct classes for 2022. My name is Fenin Dilogerwa Philippus. I'll be your tutor. My contact details are 081-799-8211. Or you can email me to philippus.f50@gmail.com. You can contact me from 800 a.m. to 700 p.m. Okay, welcome to this very important model in your teaching career. The main aim of this is to enlighten you on the importance, the relevance, the appropriateness, types and methods of assessments and evaluation in teaching and learning situations. The purpose for this presentation is to highlight key areas in these models, improvement and strengthening our responses to questions, touch based on the examination expectations, emphasize on the importance of studying the entire study guide first before you use these notes, set a strong foundation for examination preparation as well. Your module is divided into 16 units. The first unit focuses on futures, process, and impact of plate tectonics, earthquakes, and volcanoes. The second unit focuses on futures, process, and impact of land and marine forms. The availability of water and the features of natural regions, that is your third unit. Fourth unit focuses on the atmospheric pressure and the measuring of weather instruments in other words. The fifth unit focuses on features, the importance, the management of energy resources. Unit 6 focuses on the topographical maps and other forms of presented geographical details or information in terms of map work. Unit 7 is the geographical inquiries in terms of skills. Unit 8 focuses on the features of population dynamics, distribution, and the density, and the socio-economic impact of HIV and AIDS on the community and also in terms of nationwide. Unit 13 is the causes for the collapse of international peace by 1939. Unit 5, okay. Unit 14 focus on the Weimar Republic and the Nazi Party role of Germany from 1934 to 1945. Unit 15 focus on the aspects of the history of the USA. Unit 16 is the skills for historians. Okay, the key areas to emphasize on during this exam preparation for 2022, we have 3 sections. Section A is teaching methodologies. Section B is geography. Section C is history. The teaching methodologies, you should be able to explain reasons why learners' scores are important to parents. Evaluating why learners' scores are important to parents. And you should be able to explain what do teachers need to consider when doing assessment and evaluation, when, for example, giving homeworks or tests. Describe the most effective ways to use feedback in education settings. It is actually revision or correction when kids are done with their homeworks or when you are giving back the feedback. Describe ways to support underachievers in the class, and these are actually in terms of children that are actually slow, what will you do to help them out? Describe the reasons why teachers must interpret test or examination scores of learners, why one should go through with the learners again in terms of correction. Explain the aims and the advantages of using feedback phases. Describe the criteria of a good poster. Whenever kids are given an assignment to design a poster, depending on whatever topic, what are the criteria of a good poster? Describe the methods and techniques for motivating senior primary learners and differences between open-ended questions and closed questions. With section B, which is geography, you should be able to know the areas with active volcanoes and active plate tectonics around the world. There are a lot of them. The environmental and economic impacts of earthquakes and volcanoes. With the volcanoes, you should be able to know the positive and the negative impacts of volcanoes. The characteristics of fault mountains, and you should be able to study the difference in the following terminologies. Should be able to know what does weathering mean, mass wasting, erosion, and deposition. Features that are produced by wind deposition, and you should be able to describe the types of weathering, natural and human causes of floods and droughts, what are causing human and natural causes of droughts, reasons why plants are important in our environments, features that are associated with tropical rainforest regions as well. The meaning of data that are represented in the synoptic weather map, because when we talk about a synoptic weather map, we are talking about a figure that is having a summary of all the weather readings. Weather elements and their instruments and their units of measurements. For example, rainfall measured with a rain gauge and recorded in millimeters. Methods used to represent geographical data. Factors that influence temperature, for example, the latitude, altitude, and distance from the sea. How the earth is heated up, different forms of precipitation. It is actually different forms of how water comes on the surface of the earth. Can be rain, can be by fog, can be by snow, hails, or so on. Weather conditions that are associated with the two types of cyclones, which is anticyclones and cyclones itself. The temperature and the tropical cyclones, the importance of oil in the society, the different power stations that are producing electricity in the world and also in Namibia, characteristics of population pyramids for developed and developing countries. For example, the developing countries, one has a wide base, which is a sign of high birth rate, and a narrow peak, which is actually a sign of short lifespan. Factors reducing and increasing birth rates in rich and poor countries in the world. Reasons for overproduction. Types of photographs. Explain information based on primary, secondary, quantitative and qualitative data. Economic and environmental indicators for quality of life. Explain industries according to primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Causes of urbanization in developed and developing countries. That is actually also summarizing these different reasons why people are migrating, why people are moving from one place to another, more specifically from rural areas to urban areas. Social and economic impact of HIV and AIDS in Namibia, and this is actually the ones that is affecting a lot of countries, HIV and AIDS in terms of social life and economic wise, because it's more amongst the active age group, which is actually the breadwinners in many societies. Then the third section is section C, history. Here is German history. Explain how imperial events and Hitler's occupation of the Rhineland contributed to the collapse of peace. Reasons why Russia signed a non-aggression pact or aggressive pact with Germany. This is when Hitler and Russia decided to not fight each other in case if they are actually grabbing land, like specifically that Hitler was more bitter to have. Explain why France and Belgium occupied the how the failures of the League of Nations influenced the collapse of peace in Europe, specifically in countries that were supposed to keep and maintain the world peace. Reasons why Britain and France followed a policy called appeasement policy in 1930s. The appeasement policy was initiated by Britain and France, and they wanted they wanted to appease or to give whatever Germany wanted to have, because they felt it was not well treated after the punishment of the Treaty of Versailles. So they wanted to let go of Germany to accumulate whatever they can, just to say sorry. The economic crisis that hit Germany in 1923, and this economic crisis is regarded as hyperinflation, whereby they ended up printing a lot of money to actually cover up, but it ended up creating another situation and more hunger tension towards others. Hitler's policies to rearm and win back the lost territory and the Saar referendum influences the collapse of the world peace. And here we are talking about Hitler having his foreign policies, and he wanted to win back specifically the land that was taken away from Germany by the Treaty of Versailles. They wanted to reverse the treaty, in other words. The role of the Munich Agreement in the outbreak of the Second World War and the Germans' reaction to the Treaty of Versailles. Obviously, they were bitter. They were not happy with the situation, the case that they believe they were not the only one that participated in the war, and now they have to pay as reparations to the Allied countries, specifically to France. USA history. The futures of the Roaring 20s decade. The reasons for and the result of introducing prohibition law in 1919 in USA. The weakness in the economy and why it had led to the Wall Street crash in USA. You should be able to explain the discrimination against blacks in the 1920s. Reasons why some USA economic sectors did not boom but declined. Here we are talking about reasons that are behind that. People were producing overproduction, and at the end of the day there was no money for them to, or there were no customers, no countries who was willing to buy from one another because production was produced in all the countries. The consequences of the Wall Street crash and the Hoover reaction to it. Very important, read and understand the League of Nations, the Treaty of Versailles, the role of the Weimar government, the Nazi government in Germany, Hitler's foreign policy in general, USA economy and the prohibition law. That is very, very important. However, make use of your study guide provided by IOL, geography and history booklets, models from NAMCO, grade 10 to 11. That comes to the end of our presentation. Have a blessed examination. Thank you very much.